Scientology lost its founder in 1986, and the news that Hubbard was no longer sparked a flurry of unofficial biographies.
I knew that there was some question mark over L. Ron Hubbard's background. The church presents a picture of L. Ron Hubbard as being a very extraordinary individual and was almost prepared, rather in the manner of Jesus Christ, to become this extraordinary guru.
We have with us Russell Miller, the author of The Barefaced Messiah.
Now, the church says that he was born into a distinguished naval family. It's a lie. The church says that he was an explorer. It's a lie. The church says that he was a war hero. It's a lie. He was a bigamist. He was a child abductor. And in the later stages of his life, he descended into the classic symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia.
Isn't this totally to discredit the history as published of the life of Ron Hubbard, and therefore to discredit the church totally?
I know for a fact that the people in his book, and I've read it, are all people who are not active Scientologists. How on earth can he give a balanced picture?
Practicing Scientologists were mystified by the attacks on their hero.
Did Thomas Jefferson have affairs, or did he not have affairs? Does that change the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution? The question is, what is the work? What is the legacy? And I believe that what Hubbard said about life and living this is helpful and can improve the conditions of life. I don't much care whether he was a man, woman, black, white, Asian, Hispanic. I really don't care. And I mean that. I actually don't care.
Miller claimed he was a victim of fair game for his tough portrayal of Hubbard.
I had a call from the police saying that I'd been identified as a suspect in the murder of a private detective in South London, a man who'd been stabbed. I said, I think I know what's going on, and I explained to them that I suspected the Church of Scientology or a over-enthusiastic Scientologist had fingered me for this crime.
The church sought injunctions to stop the book, which was never published in America.
A number of lawyers commented that life was too short to litigate against the Church of Scientology because of what the church puts lawyers through who go up against it. They have told me on several occasions, we make life rough for people who sue us.
The media ignored those warnings and began covering Scientology with a vengeance. In April 1991, Time magazine published Cult of Greed, a scathing cover story on the Church of Scientology.
The Time magazine article charged that the Church of Scientology wasn't a religion, but rather an organization obsessed with making money.
The relentless article called Hubbard a lying flim-flam man, accused the church of mind control, and contended that the church's parent organization was squirreling away over $400 million in offshore bank accounts. Scientology fought back by slapping Time with a $416 million libel suit.
After our cover story, the church launched a multi-million-dollar ad campaign smearing me and smearing Time magazine.
The church accused Time magazine of being at the hands of Eli Lilly, makers of Prozac, and a Scientology foe.
That article was the product of a campaign that was being waged to discredit the church for exposing the dangers of Prozac. And Eli Lilly and Company purchased 750,000 copies of that magazine before it went to print.
They have depressed the share value of Eli Lilly, which probably concerns Eli Lilly. And I believe it's part of Hubbard's vendetta against psychiatry.
Eli Lilly refused to comment on the Church of Scientology. After spending $10 million in legal fees, Time won the suit.
Defamation lawsuits can really serve as a deterrent to people who engage in provocative or controversial or offensive expression. What the Supreme Court has called this kind of effect is a chilling effect.
Is the job of the press to just look at somebody's mask and say, oh, well, of course, that's what you are? Or is the job of the press to dig behind and see really what the substance is and to really see what's going on?
Journalists who have covered Scientology have long held that they are harassed and investigated.
I believe that Scientology tries to make reporting about Scientology a traumatic experience in the hopes that it will prevent reporters or deter reporters from writing about them.
And of course, you never go into an interview without doing a background check on the reporter. So you run that reporter through the voting records, through the bankruptcy records, through court records. You interview his friends, you see what else they've done, so you get a feel of this, whether or not this is an enemy reporter.
Well, of course, Scientology for journalists has become like a target of opportunity. It's like you can portray it as this demonic organization, you can portray it as greedy, as relentless, as a dangerous foe, which of course gives the impression that you're very courageous to be going after it.
German reporter Mona Boutros recently experienced Scientology's tough policy on unfriendly journalists.
Bring persons with you. He has been physically threatened by the Church of Scientology, and they are the ones following us. They're stalking us.
Our main objective in the dark side of Scientology was to inform the public about criminal activities of the church. Once we began shooting, the angle changed once the church found out about our project. Once they observed us gathering information and filming, they didn't leave us alone after that. They followed us and they put pressure tactics and prevented us from working independently as journalists. The BMW is, yes, 3 cars, and we would like to come to the closest police station.
You got to say it's stalking, because that's the felony.
The only time that we have done anything to investigate a journalist who was doing an investigation into Scientology was when they wouldn't come to us, when they wouldn't ask us, what is it, what's the truth about this, when they wouldn't accept any of the information that we gave them, when they were clearly operating on some other agenda. Now, when someone like that shows up and they feel like they have the right to be digging around and investigating and finding out all the dirt and stuff that they can dig up to put in a story about us, I see nothing wrong with going and investigating what is it that's motivating them. Who said that a journalist is immune from someone looking into their methods and activities?
Despite the possible headaches of covering Scientology, an interest in getting the inside story persists, leading to undercover investigations by reporters who delight in provoking the church.
I'm not going to lie and say I had a completely open mind. I mean, I thought, because I noticed the scam working, as soon as I walked in the door, them making a play for my credit card. I'm an introductory to Dianetics graduate. I got my hands around those cans of that e-meter, and baby, my needle floated. It floated good.
The church says the cynicism comes from a media in search of the sensational.
The media's interest in 3-headed babies and people that have been impregnated by outer space UFO aliens, because I think it's very easy for the media, particularly people that are doing a short program or writing a short story, that's something they've got to bang out in a couple of hours, to take and try and reduce things to sound bites.
And because Scientology doesn't reduce to a soundbite, it just doesn't lend itself to media coverage. It doesn't lend itself to some kind of accurate treatment. We're not just blank.
Scientology often expresses frustration with the press and has taken to conducting its own investigations, publishing them in Scientology magazines.
From our perspective, the more you know, the less likely you are to be victimized, the less likely you are to become a target, to actually be safe.
In 1991, the church utilized national newspapers to air their gripes with the IRS.
We figured, we're not going to get the IRS any more upset with us than they already are. So we published a series of ads in USA Today, and they documented the fact that the IRS was, in fact, abusing all sorts of people.
I mean, when the Scientology goes after an institution, they don't just pick on little guys, as people might. I mean, they pick on the IRS, because they obviously wanted tax-exempt status. They thought they deserved it.
Scientology continues to utilize media channels to make its opinions known, but the organization is still notorious for pestering critics.
When this program goes out, I can assure the producer of this program and the network that they will get exactly the same happening to them as happening to me. Absolutely, it's a promise, I guarantee it.
The Church of Scientology recently launched a multi-million-dollar public relations blitz. Church leadership says it's aimed at increasing membership and promoting its unique programs. Critics say it's merely an attempt to counter the growing negative publicity surrounding the church. In our next hour, we hear from current and former Scientologists as they speak out passionately about the church and its members. Also, A rare interview with a man who is now the group's spiritual leader as he prepares his flock for the 21st century. I'm Bill Curtis. Stay tuned.